Okay, now we're ready to go. Probably already wondering, and I'm going to explain it. Well, that background looks different, Ed. You're right, it is different, and I'm going to tell you why. But I hope everybody's doing fine. Of course, this is the live show for April 27th, 2022. Yes, we made it. We've made it to April 27th, 2022. Hopefully, we'll make it to April 28th and beyond. Yeah, it's been a busy day, as you would normally suspect. Wednesdays are always one of the busiest days of the week for me. Between this live show, getting prepared for this live show, usually by this time, the episode for this Friday is in an advanced state of completion, although not usually totally complete, as is, and I'll get into that, where that stands for Friday. But I'm doing fantastic. And so let me just maybe approach, maybe I'll do this first. If you're watching, you know what to do. Give the show a thumbs up. I know what you're saying, but Ed, on all those videos that you do, you have that little 23-second, little clip at the beginning now reminding people to hit the little subscribe button down there, and you tell them, you don't have to hit the thumbs up button until you watch it. Make sure you like it. Well, it's a little different for the live show because these live shows are always good. They're always good. Just do it now. Give it the thumbs up right now. You won't have to worry about it anymore. And it won't be like, you forget. And then you'll wake up at like 3 a.m. and you'll be like, oh, I forgot. Just do it now. Hit the thumbs up right now as I am talking here. And I'll get into a couple of the other things here in a moment. But like I already pointed out, the subscribe button is right there. If you are not yet a subscriber to this channel, but you're watching this live show, what are you doing? You got to, get all those things lined up in your life. Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, famous psychiatrist, started the Myers, his thinking forms the basis for the Myers-Briggs test. He always talked about something called individuation, synchronizing the outer you with the inner you, because we have something inside of us called the shadow. That is the part that we don't allow people to see. Even though it's a part of us, we don't show it to people for whatever reason. It could be good, it could be bad. It's just something that people never see. But people who, though, don't have a shadow, if they can synchronize their outside and their inside, these are considered to be, in Carl Jung's thinking, his way of teaching, the people who are the sanest among all of us. What I would say to you is start doing the individuation with yourself. If you're listening to this, watching this live show, if you're watching any of the videos that we post here on YouTube, but you're not yet a subscriber, you got this kind of difference going on there. It's a little shadow going on there. Just get it all synced up. Become a subscriber. So what's going on here? Why am I sitting in this particular room? Well, first of all, you should know what this particular room is. Actually, this is my bedroom in my condo right here in Clearwater Beach. So why the change? Well, it's going to be a temporary change, but I don't know how long temporary means exactly. Because my father is coming down here. I'm going to be flying up there next Monday. It seems like I was just in Pennsylvania. But I'm flying up there on Monday and driving back down on Tuesday. So he can have his vehicle. I can have my car. He just got, by the way, a new Hyundai Santa Fe or something. He doesn't have his Jeep anymore. So I'm flying up there Monday. He's coming down here Tuesday. Well, as I think all of you know by now who watch the live show, all of my equipment is usually over in that other room. And although in the past I've left it in there when he's been down here, I really can't do that now because of some of the things that are going on in this building, because it seems to be a lot of construction, not necessarily on the building itself, but there's a lot of condo owners who are doing improvements new bathrooms, new floors, everything, things are rising in price. So people don't mind doing these improvements now, that it makes it very hard to record anything during the day. So I have to do it at night, or at least after 5 o'clock when all of that stops. There's a provision here. All construction, anything like that has to be done between 8 and 5, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I can't do any recording during the day right now. Well, that gets to be a problem because my dad goes to bed at like 10. So I just moved everything over to my bedroom, and it is quite packed in here. And so this is where you are. I did move the Unfound sign. There is usually a picture over there, an Iron Maiden poster that I took down, but I wanted to put the Unfound picture up there anyway. This is the TV. You can see the Rolling Stones poster. And on the other side of that curtain, that's the golf. I have in the bedroom here, there's a sliding door, walk right out to the balcony, and that is the Gulf of Mexico, and it was beautiful here today. This is my bed with I must be a bachelor. I have an Iron Maiden bedspread on it, blanket on it. I must be single. And so this is where my bedroom is. I know that I've done live shows, of course, way down in Madeira Beach when I lived down there, and a couple different locations there. When I started here, of course, I've done all the live shows over in the other room. I've even done a live show, of course, from my father's place. I've done a live show, I think, from Worlds last year in Orlando on a Wednesday night. This is the first time I think I've done a live show from my own bedroom. So this is where I am. So my bedroom is completely packed of stuff, but I had to clear all that stuff from the guest bedroom where my dad will be, which is over that direction. Right here, you can't see it, but this is where you go into my bathroom and then the shower. The door to go out to the rest of the condo is right there. So that is what you are looking at in this video. So let's now see who is all in here. Carrie F., I'm super happy I found you. Well, Carrie, thank you. And I responded, thank you. Crimson, new subscriber, I guess, to the channel. Crimson, very good choice. I compliment you. The Real says the early bird gets the worm, but it's the second mouse that gets the cheese. The Real, I know that's a very well-known, long-known line, but when I read that, I think of the movie Iron Man 3, where I think the villain in that says something like that. Karen, it's great to be here again with everyone. Hello, Karen. Jasmine, you asked me a fantastic question that is surely getting answered tonight. Hello, Twinkle. Hello. Linda says, bet you thought I was dead. I did not think you were dead, Linda, but I was thinking you might be on life support, but it's good to see you back here. Christy, screaming. Good to see you, Screaming the Real. Screaming. Hello. Charlie Bravo, Cherie doing the moderating tonight with the old heavy metal sign. Love it. Twinkle, no, Dad is not here yet. Next, he'll be here. We'll get here probably late Tuesday night next week, Twinkle. Christy says, slowly drifting to sleep, trying to get a second win so I don't fall asleep. Christy can always watch this in the replay. Hello, Stitching, DLV. We will make it. Carrie, super cool planet parade with the moon early tomorrow morning. Everyone should check it out. Kathy, hello, Kathy. Hello. Hey, Zeus, good to see you. Stitching says, I put Unfound out in the True Crime YouTube for others. Thank you. Twinkle, everybody talking to each other, sticking with us. Hey there, DLV, I agree. The live shows are always good. It is comfortable to be able to count on something. I know you need that. It's hard to get consistent quality out there, DLV. I get it. Hello, Charlene, everyone from Ireland. It's 2:05 a.m. here, but I wouldn't miss this for anything, including sleep. Well, the good news is that if I get tired in this live show, I'll just go to bed. No, I would not do that to you. But it's going to be a long night for me because I got to continue finishing the update episode. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Linda. So maybe we'll be having some guest appearances by Dad Denzel. if he wants, we can make that happen next Wednesday for sure. And Rachel says hello from a newish subscriber. I'll take newish, Rachel. That is what I thought. Iron Maiden bedspread. Yes, you can see it kind of. You can kind of see the IR right there. There it is. Yeah, fantastic. Very high quality. I will tell you, I bought it online. Very high quality. In fact, maybe some of you also know in the guest bedroom, I have a Def Leppard blanket on that one. That is also very high quality. Not crazy expensive, but not cheap, but very high quality. Yeah, Iron Maiden, DLV, pretty cool setup, Ed. Kind of looks like a comfy hotel room with some personalization. It is kind of like a comfy hotel room. It's just a very big hotel room. Although you could look at this building and think like it's a hotel, certainly a big hotel, but it's really a condo building. I'm in WPB in Lantana, small world, West Palm Beach, Carrie. There you go. Okay. So once again, if you're just tuning in now, you're wondering, what is this? That's not where Ed usually broadcasts from in his condo. You're right. I'm sitting in my bedroom. And really, why didn't I just put it out like out there in the common area? There's no room. I will tell you, this is a 2-bedroom condo, but my closet is huge. The closet for the guest bedroom is huge. But really, on that guest bedroom, there's not a lot of space for like, drawers and cupboard, dressers or anything like that. And out here, you have a kitchen table, you have chairs, you have couches, everything. There's really not any room for anything else. So I had to kind of move a few things around here in this bedroom to make room for this. And really, it's pretty cramped. I mean, the distance between this desk and my bed is just wide enough for me to walk between them. That's about it. So there you go. Crimson, I'm one-handed. Rick Allen from Def Leppard is my wow, Crimson, look at you. If he can drum, I can do anything. Yes. Hello, Deborah. Good to see you. That's interesting, Crimson. One-handed. Yeah, I'm a huge Def Leppard fan too, but not as big as an Iron Maiden fan. So let's move on to this. Some of you who have whose names are in gray are probably wondering, why do these people have these green names and then they have these little insignias or badges? That's because those people are members of this channel. They get things early. They get things that nobody else gets. I guess you could say they get kind of special access to me. And they've done that by hitting the join button, which is right down here. As long as you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, it's right down in here. So if you'd like to get the Friday episodes a day early with video, if you'd like to get the Unfound Now episodes that are done monthly early, if you'd like to get daily updates from myself about what's going on in Unfound's world, if you'd like to have a snippet of the blog that I write at Patreon, just hit that join button right there. For 10 cents a day, you get all of that. So consider it. Please consider it. And then also on top of everything else, you get these cool little green names with the badges. And then you get some emojis that you can see Sharia's used with the little heavy metal hands, something that I created. Some cool little stuff there too. Take a look at it. Consider it. Good to see you, Deborah. Chris, awesome. I get to see this live. Usually I catch the replay. Chris, thank you for making time on this Wednesday night. At least it's night here. It's 9:15 Eastern. So what is this room? Like I said, Dad's going to be here next week. I'm flying Spirit. I'm not taking any luggage with me. This is the way I do it when I have gone up, flown up to drive my dad down here. Although it's been a while. It's been since kind of the end of 2020 that this happened. I fly up with no luggage. I'm going to take that laptop right there with me. I fly up, I get picked up. I go to his place, and that next morning we are on the road back down here. I don't dilly-dally around. I got no time. I didn't even like being up there for 38 days. This is my space. This is where I live. This is where I make things happen. Although certainly things got done while I was up in Pennsylvania, and did the episodes, did a lot of interviews and everything, but just not as comfortable as you can imagine. So flying Spirit Airlines, I think my brother Michael is going to pick me up. He'll drive me up to my dad's. My dad is already packing his car, so that'll be nice. I won't have to help him with any of that. We'll just get in the car. He'll come back down here. He'll have his car. I'll have my car. He can do whatever he wants. And of course, the work will continue. So I'm flying Spirit next Monday morning. Not been doing much disc golf. Busy. Just too busy. A lot of good things going on here. Talking to a lot of people. Kind of been able to work a couple weeks ahead. The interview for next Friday's episode is already done. I think I'm going to be doing an interview this Friday or this weekend that won't be coming out until, what would that be, like May 13th? And we don't May. Let me think. Is that right? First, May 6th. Yeah, May is going to have a Friday the 13th. Look at that. So on May 13th, I'm going to try to get the interview done for the May 13th episode done this weekend. So I'll be a little ahead on that, which will be nice. And still a possibility I might be going out of town on my own. We'll just have to see about that while my dad is here. But haven't, since you saw me last, I think I disc golfed twice since last Wednesday. I wanted to go play doubles yesterday, but there was unfound work to do. And on Sunday mornings, although I was doing that a lot in 2021, I got to admit, it's a little tough to get up at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday when the rest of the week you're not getting up until like 10:30. But I don't go to bed till like 2:30 or 3 in the morning. So it's a little tough then to get up at 8:30 on a Sunday morning to go play disc golf. But I'll need to get a little practice in because not this weekend, but next weekend, I have another one-day tournament. So not a lot of news going on there, except tonight is sign up for Worlds. You remember last year I went to Orlando and played horribly. That was the main reason I ended up going to see a sports psychologist, and I'm planning to see her again, by the way. Well, I'm eligible for Worlds this year as well that happen in July, and they are in Peoria, Illinois. Well, sign up is tonight. So as soon as this show is over, I need to get on the computer and get on. Hopefully, I won't get locked out. I don't think it'll fill up that fast. I don't think so. I think I should be fine. But anyway, so I've not been doing much disc golfing. In other news, I got new cable boxes. The guy came, when was it? Yesterday, and replaced the box out here. He put a new box in here. I think we were due for an upgrade. And of course, the bad part is that any shows that you've DVR'd, all gone. And I had some good stuff DVR'd. I had Phil Mickelson's PGA Championship DVR'd, gone. Had the 10 Commandments DVR'd, gone. Had a bunch of Columbo episodes DVR'd, gone. So I got to do this from scratch again. Although, I don't know what I can do about Phil's PGA thing. That I did that live right when it happened last year. So it's a little unfortunate, but what are you going to do? I think we were due. I think there was something wrong with the box out there. It didn't want to come on sometimes. So the funny part, though, is kind of funny, is that I just thought he was going to be replacing the box out there, not the one in here. So he ended up coming in here, and it's always weird. You get strangers coming into your place, and they're going into places that people usually aren't, and everything. And I have some guns in here and things that usually, if I'd have known somebody was going to, if any sort of somebody was coming in here to work on this place or whatever, I would usually put things away. I just don't like things being, things like that being right in people's faces. Well, I didn't know he was coming in here. So he got to see some of my arsenal that I wish people didn't know I had. So that's just how it went. Otherwise, it went pretty smoothly. He and I had a good conversation. We were done. He was asking me about all the discs that I have. And I told him I'm a disc golfer, at least amateur. And he seemed interested in that. So we had a conversation about that. Good guy. But traditionally, when people are coming over, there's certain things that are usually out that I like to put away. And this time I didn't do that. So it was a little awkward. So what's everybody saying here? Hello, screaming. Please remember to hit the palms up or the thumbs up. Sheree says, I fly Spirit when I go to Colorado. No frills, but mission accomplished. Totally true. No frills at all. You can fly cheap as long as you don't bring any luggage. That's the thing about Southwest. If you're going to fly somewhere and you're taking luggage, then Southwest is probably going to be a pretty good deal. But if you're flying somewhere you don't need to take any luggage, then Southwest isn't a very good deal at all. You need to look at these companies that, added on after the fact. So I've gotten a pretty decent deal, especially considering fuel prices, especially considering inflation and everything. Not a bad price at all, but you have to remember that's no frills, no luggage or anything else to fly to Pennsylvania. Twinkle says, so glad that the Unfound Empire is growing. Well, I promise, Twinkle, to be a benevolent dictator. Robert says, how are you? I'm doing good, Robert. Doing really good. Thanks for asking. Been working out a little bit. I think that, although I think my neck is fine, I think something I'm doing, maybe doing my sit-ups, is putting some stress on my neck because I'm getting the next day, I felt fine today, but yesterday, the night before that, I'm supposed to work out tonight as well. Just get kind of these pressure headaches right here. And then my neck is sore back here. I think it's just putting some weird pressure when I'm doing sit-ups. So I'm going to have to pay attention to that. But feeling good. It's all good. Thanks for asking, Robert. Good to see you. Twinkle says, my dad had a lot of his guns with custom stocks on them displayed on the wall in his den. Sure enough, they got stolen one day. Yeah, that's another part of this. It's one of those things when people come to your house, they're going to be working on it. You don't want to be looking over their shoulder, but you don't want to be totally disconnected from them either because there's always that fear. And so I tried to kind of play it in between. I let him do his thing in here, but I was sitting out on the landing by the elevators while he was here and just occasionally would walk in here just to see what was up. And everything was totally fine. TD says, where are you today? TD, I just got through saying, this is my bedroom. This is where I sleep. This is where I go to bed at 2:30 in the morning and don't get up till 11. Because of me moving some things over here because my dad's going to be here. So this is my bedroom. This is it. It's what is it? King size or something? But it's not technically mine. In fact, I don't own any of the furniture in here. This is a rental. The dressers, the TVs, the refrigerator, the microwave, the oven, all that stuff out there. None of it's mine. I rent this place. So although I say this is my bed, it's just really a place where I sleep. Yeah, that's what's going on, TD. Screaming says, I need a bigger safe for my growing firearm collection. Is that right, Screaming? Interesting. I could only be as fortunate. Crimson became a member. Crimson, thank you very much for becoming a member of the exclusive group here on YouTube. That's what Crimson has done. If you're seeing that green rectangle, she has hit the join button, or he has hit the join button right down there. Thank you very much. TD says, I did notice the sign for consistency. Yeah, I did move that. TD, simply because there was usually an Iron Maiden poster there that and I moved it actually out into the other room. But I thought, just got to keep some sort of, consistency so people don't think I've totally lost my mind. So he says, yes, TD. But so that's what's going on with some of all the stuff going on in my personal life, at least what I can talk about. And so let me see what's also, if you'd like to donate to the program, you can hit the little gray square with the $sign in the middle. That, of course, is the super chat button where you can monetarily contribute. That's kind of right down there under the chat box. But thank you, Crimson. I think you're going to enjoy it, seeing me talking about Unfound every day for at least a few minutes. Boston says, listening but won't be able to see chat. Thanks for the recent map update, Ed. Hope all is well with everyone. You're very welcome. I guess you're talking about the most recent Unfound now. I'm going to be talking about that eventually, Boston. So let's move on. Let's get to, being that we're almost a half hour into this. So those are some of the things that are going on with me. Everything is pretty good around here. And just been spending a lot of time at home. I did go and do a little food shopping today. Took a shower because I wanted my hair to look slinky. And then I went and did a little food shopping, got my Powerball tickets. Of course, since you're watching this live show, it's too late for you to buy one. I don't want you to go anywhere. You got to stay here. Got my Powerball tickets for tonight. It's up to 450 million. It's worth playing now. My brother Brian is also playing. I'm hoping that if he hits it, he'll treat me well. And if I hit it, I promise to treat him well, along with my two other siblings. If you're into that. So let's move on. Yesterday was a big day in my life. Yesterday was the 6th anniversary of a very big day in my life, and I'm going to tell you about it. But first, I'm going to thank Screaming for monetarily contributing during the live show. Thank you, Screaming, for that super chat contribution. Crimson says, I'm a she. Okay, she. All right, she Crimson. Thank you very much. Thank you for becoming a member of this channel. I hope you enjoy it. And let me know what you think about it. So I was reminded on my personal page yesterday, and the memories section on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, you know how every day it'll tell you, well, 5 years ago, you posted this, you wrote this picture, something was going on. And I love that feature. And I go way back because I've been on Facebook since about 2009. It's so weird reading what I wrote about something on a day like 13 years ago when I was still in my 30s. It's so weird. It's so weird. Well, yesterday, a post popped up. And here was the post. It was from April 26th, 2016. So before Unfound started. It said, starting a new venture this week, something I've wanted to do for a long time, more details to come. That was the post that I made on April 26th, 2016, when I was the young age of 45. And what was that? What did that post? What was that post about? Although I don't get into, really give anything away in that post. That was the recognition that I was starting a true crime podcast, the first podcast that I started with a co-host, or we co-hosted the program with a woman from Georgia, the state of Georgia. That was the recognition that we had decided that we were going to start a true crime podcast. And that was the first time on April 26, 2016, that I released, kind of hinted at it publicly. First time I ever did that. So once again, I'll read it to you. Starting a new venture this week, which was kind of announcing the first episode of that podcast was going to be coming out. Something I've wanted to do for a long time, more details to come. Now, if some of you don't know, this might be news to many of you. Before I started Unfound in September of 2016, I was actually co-hosting another true crime podcast. I never say the name of it. I never say the name of the other host of the program. But we did 5 episodes, and that's all the longer it lasted. We had started in, like it says here, like late April of 2016. The final episode was in early July of 2016, and then it went kaput. There were 5 episodes. It was a missing persons podcast. And I was even trying to, we did 5 episodes, I think. And I was even trying to think, what were those 5 disappearances that we covered? We covered Jody Huisentruits. In fact, that's how I originally met or talked to Caroline Lowe. We covered her disappearance. We covered the disappearance of Jesse Ross. We covered the disappearance of Amy Bradley. She was the woman who maybe possibly fell off that cruise ship. We covered that disappearance. We covered the disappearance of a young woman who went missing in Texas, and it turned out that some other guy ended up having her ID. I'm sure one of you is going to look that up. I could not think of her name. I did not type it out here, but we covered her disappearance. I think she might have been I think she was maybe being pimped out, and then I think that she was into drugs too. She had a boyfriend who was very shady. And then eventually some other guy was found with this young woman's ID. Like I said, I think this is a disappearance from Texas. And then the other disappearance that we covered was one from actually the panhandle of Florida, which even here is Unfound. We've covered quite a few from that area, of a guy who allegedly went scuba diving in this place called the Devil's Cove or the Devil's Pit or something, and he went missing. So those were the 5 episodes that we covered. And then after that, we parted ways. And it was because of the collapse. Jasmine, Roxanne Paltoff. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was the young woman who went missing, and her ID was found with some guy. Yes, Roxanne Paltoff. We covered that disappearance. Thank you, Jasmine. But it was because of the collapse of that podcast that caused Unfound to get started. I have to tell you that it upset me so much when that podcast collapsed. I cannot even, maybe it wouldn't have worked out between me and the co-host anyway. Eventually, I guess you're going to find out something's not going to work. It's better to find out sooner than later. But I was just so upset that it collapsed because I really felt like, it was something that I felt I was good at, in addition to the fact that it's important. Anytime in your life, I think if you can combine those two things, whatever it is, it adds something to your life. It's great to be good at something. It's great to care about things, but when you can combine those, it's like the perfect mixture. And even though that podcast only went 5 episodes, we certainly had quite a few listeners for only lasting that long. Thought, given the format, it was a very regular format. I would say that Unfound's format is more unique compared to what we were doing there, but it just upset me. I was like, I cannot believe this collapse. It was so good. We were getting a lot of good feedback, doing good work, and then all of a sudden, kaput. But it was because of that feeling that Unfound got started. I just could not let it go. I could just not say, well, you know what? I guess it wasn't meant to be. Maybe I just, this was just a flash in the pan. It was just something that was only supposed to last for 5 episodes. And I just need to go back to what else I was doing. I was doing a lot of novel writing and everything, but it was just within that space of a couple months that it was like, yes, this is it. This is it. And then it was gone. I just couldn't let it go. So it was between the collapse of that podcast that I was talking about once again in this post from 6 years ago. It was from early July to get Unfound up and running by the beginning of September of 2016. And then it was not a very good start, I'm here to say. I will tell you that other podcast got up and running a lot faster than Unfound did. Why? I don't think I really want to get into that here. I have my beliefs and thoughts and everything on that, but just don't really want to talk about that publicly. But starting out, Unfound got a lot of 1-star reviews and horrible reviews on iTunes. I can't even begin to tell you. It was ugly. It was really, really ugly. But here we are. 209. This Friday is episode 299. 299 episodes still here, despite all those horrible reviews and 1-star reviews and trolling and everything else that I encountered. Really, from like September 2016, sometime into 2017, it just would not go away. And this is why I think I've maybe become a little famous for saying, I don't care what the reviews are. The program is going to get done anyway. I don't care what you write about the program. I love people to give Unfound nice reviews, but the episodes are going to get done one way or the other. It doesn't matter. And that's where that came from, because I realized I was so caught up in what people were saying at the beginning and seeing those horrible reviews and everything, that it hurt. And I'm sure anybody who hosts any program, whether it's true crime or whatever, you read those and it's just like, oh, it's horrible. But at some point, I just decided, you know what? Those don't matter. I'm talking to a lot of people. People want to talk to me. I'm doing good interviews. I'm really working at this. And none of that is stopping me from hitting the power button on the computer. It's not stopping me from using my cell phone. It's not stopping me from hitting the record button to do these episodes. So, why worry about it? And so that's why I haven't read a review of Unfound for the last at least 4 years. But it all started with that post, April 26th of 2016. Little did I know that podcast was going to collapse. And really, really, really little did I know that I would still be doing this in 2022, to the point that it's almost 300 episodes. I just, Unfound just got signed on with Spotify, just got the first revenue report from Spotify, which was very, very positive. I don't, want to get into that, but just got the first revenue report from Spotify within the last couple days. That was very positive, very good news. I could have never suspected that when I wrote that post back in 2016. Could have never expected it. It's just weird. It's just crazy how things have progressed. But, and I would probably say this for anybody who does at least a weekly podcast of any kind. It's work. It's work. And I think this is why, if you ever look at any statistics for podcasting just in general, you learn that most podcasts don't last more than like 5 episodes. And you find out that the average podcast out there maybe only gets like 100 downloads a month or something. Is it good work? I enjoy it. It's not fun. You can enjoy something, but it not be fun. Me for fun is like going to play disc golf if I'm playing well, or going to Disney, going to trivia. Doing Unfound is not fun, but I enjoy it because you have to enjoy it. If you're getting into this because you think you're getting in all these subscribers and downloads and ad money and everything else, the fact is the odds of that happening are very, 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 very small. In addition, if it's going to happen, it's going to take a very, 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 very long time. And you're going to have to grind it out. It's going to very much be like starting a band where you're going to have to start in a bar where there's like 2 people listening, and you're going to have to do that for a long time before you get any attention, any recognition for your playing. This is what podcasting is like. So to think I never could have guessed 200, coming up on 299 episodes. I don't know where the time has gone. It has gone by like that. But I'm working hard. What's that line from that Beastie Boys song? I'm 27. I'm working harder than ever in one of their very popular songs. That's the kind of, 299 episodes in, and I'm working as hard as ever. It's fantastic. It really is fantastic. And it all started, little did I know that post was even coming. It's not like I knew that was coming up. It just appeared on the screen today. And I was like, oh, I know. I remember writing that, and I know exactly what that's about. So April 26th, 2016, a big day in Ed Denzel history. Screaming, thank you very much. Twinkle, the collapse of that show led you to a much better situation. I think so, Twinkle. I got to admit, I'm not going to speak for her. I've not spoken to my co-host back then for a long, like maybe since Unfound got started. But I don't know. I think she's really into true crime and everything. I don't know if she was really, really into the hosting side of it. And that might be, and a lot of people aren't. And so, maybe it was just best off for her too. Paula says, if you're passionate about your work, it's not really work. True. Kathy K, yes, thank you. Twinkle, is amazing how many failures lead us to better places. Twinkle, you don't even know how many times I've failed in my life. I failed at all sorts of things. Almost flunked out of college. Worked for my family in Pennsylvania after I got out of college. I was horrible in the car business. Horrible. Went to Las Vegas, got maybe one of the worst jobs in Las Vegas. I guess you could say I failed at that. So then did production work on some movies and film. Was not good at that. Hated it. Then when I started working at Star Trek, things kind of started turning around, but still, since that I've had a ton of failures. I would say that I failed as an independent filmmaker. I would say that although, maybe one of these days I'll maybe write some novels again somewhere down the road. I think I've failed as a novel writer. For a long time, I was failing at disc golf, not winning anything, making an total idiot of myself out there. Could not throw the disc straight. I have failed at so many things in my life. It's crazy. It really is. And maybe that's why this has worked. I don't know. Twinkle says, to quote Survivor, outwit, outlast, outplay. Yeah, thank you, Boston. Hello, Marlene. Good to see you. Are you eating pizza tonight, Marlene? Marlene, hello. Yeah, are you doing okay? Yes, okay. So maybe some of you saw that post. I did share it today. Starting a new venture this week, something I've wanted to do for a long time, more details to come. And the details were that I was starting a true crime podcast with a co-host. That lasted for 5 episodes until July. And I remember when I just can remember when she told me that she didn't want to do it, the podcast anymore. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Oh man, it was bad. It was bad. And already the next day, I was plotting my comeback. The very next day, I was plotting to start this. It's just so crazy. So moving on. Of course, this past Friday, we covered the disappearance of Steve Davis. I think it was a disappearance that offered a lot of different possibilities and theories. So in that poll, in the discussion group, I asked everybody, so what do you think happened? Did Steve just walk off? Did Janice's husband get to him? Did George, his friend, have something to do with it? Did the other Steve Habernas, have something to do with it? And it's a tied poll. I think that's the first time we've had that. It's tied. Now, there weren't a lot of participants in this poll for whatever reason, but it was tied with Steve Habernas having done something to Steve and Steve walking off by himself. I was very surprised that only one person picked that Janice's husband had something to do with his disappearance. You know, me looking from the outside, I would have thought that that would be like the obvious choice. I'm not saying I believe that, but given what I think I know about you, the audience, that's what I thought you would have picked. Only one person picked that. Okay. In the think tank, kind of a split decision on that. No real consensus. Makes sense. Some people certainly could believe that Steve walked off, for a few different reasons put together, being, of course, that he did talk about it. But we can't deny those. Some people could not deny some of the other theories. So there was no consensus on the think tank. If you're wondering what the think tank is, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Become a member of the think tank at $12 a month. If you'd like to ask me any questions about becoming a Patreon member, where you get a lot of cool stuff over there. If you want to be a member here on YouTube, totally fine. Cool stuff here. But you know what? Maybe even cooler stuff over there on Patreon. As far as myself writing the blog, it was a long blog. It was almost 5,000 words. Man, I meandered around on that one before I came to a conclusion. I decided that Steve walked off all on his own. That was the conclusion I came to. Once again, though, if you'd like to see how I personally came to my own personal decision, you can go to patreon.com, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Sign up. I think you'll enjoy it. Get a lot of cool stuff over there. Let's see what everybody else is saying. The Real says, this sounds exactly like me. I even failed at counter service in a cheesecake shop. See, that's probably a job I would fail at, The Real, simply because I would eat all the cheesecake. Worst 3 days of my life, and now I'm never eating cheesecake again. I just love cheesecake, even though I shouldn't eat it either. Becky says, just say you found a dozen things you're not good at before you found your true calling. There are no failures. Thomas Edison found 10,000 filaments before the right one for the light bulb. Becky, you're correct. That's a great example. Thank you for those words of support, Becky, and maybe others can read that and feel also inspired. Thank you. Kathy, The Real, I love cheesecake. There you go. Marlene, yes, I'm doing better. Still coughing. My second lung extra was good. X-ray, I guess. We'll be seeing a lung doctor soon. Otherwise, okay. You fell last Friday. Come on, Marlene. You got to stay on your 2 feet. Got to stay on your 2 feet. You had KFC today. Marlene, I can't tell you the last time I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken. Cannot tell you last time. Twinkle, I look forward to the think tank every week. There's, for any of you wondering about the think tank, there's one of our members, Twinkle, loving it. I think you would enjoy it too. It's a good place to talk to the other true crime lovers and get some exercise for your brain. It's the only one of its kind. The think tank is the only thing of its kind in the world. Small group of people getting together to specifically talk about one disappearance only, throwing ideas back and forth, theories in a very private manner where everybody can feel that they can voice their opinions. There are no judgments. Nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. Everybody gets to voice what they think happened. I come to the discussion with the points to ponder, really trying to pick all of the members' brains, being the devil's advocate. Everybody has a great time, but it's also very educational. Sharon, thank you. Hair is on point. Is it? Did you hear that, Hair? You're on point tonight. Nicely done. Paula says it really does make you analyze. That's what we try to do. Their think tankers are awesome people, Linda. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm going to see you back in there sometime soon, Linda. Okay. So that was the Steve Davis poll. As you would expect, I will keep in contact with Susie. And you should know, I think I can say this. I've actually put Susie in contact with the two other women who were on the program who also were talking about San Francisco disappearances. That, of course, would be Valerie, who's the mother of Cameron Remmer, and Gina, who's the mother of Jackson Miller, both disappearances from San Francisco. I sent them a group email a couple days ago, so maybe they can find a way to work together there. Moving on, Dr. Telesco, no show tomorrow. If you watched the one back in March, we had talked about getting together on April 28th. That's not happening because of some things that she has going on. So we have pushed that to 2 weeks from tomorrow, which I believe is May 12th. It'll be at 7 p.m. on her channel live. And I'm still not ready to reveal what Disappearance we'll be talking about, but it's a solved disappearance. This will be the first time we have discussed a solved one. She thought we might switch it up a little bit. I agreed. And that will be 2 weeks from tomorrow. So I'm sorry if maybe you thought that was tomorrow evening, because that's what I said. Not happening tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow. Crimson, long story short, I found you by searching for Mary Jane Van Gilder and heard your episode with the Detective Adam Turner. Mary Jane went missing. To be continued. Yes. Yeah, that was an episode from last year, Crimson. Thank you for joining in. Maybe, Crimson, did you see the recent interview that Detective Turner did with my friend John Lorden on YouTube? Not sure if you saw that or not. You should check that out. Yeah, stitching. Yes, it is. I miss it. Crimson, I was asked to help with her case. Oh, there you go. I'm a genealogist in the 1950 census was released 4/1/22. Okay, Crimson. Interesting. Yes, John asked for help. Okay. So you saw that. Excellent. Okay. Moving on. Something that will be revealed, although I've talked about it on here, but of course the update episode is this Friday. And I will be talking about this on Friday as well. But, back in late January, a UK-based TV production company contacted me. The company's name is Wild Dream Films. And they're trying to put together a series regarding the murder of Janelle Matthews. So today, just coincidentally, today, we had another talk. The guy's name is Michael. We hadn't had a meeting in a while, and he thought, well, let's just get together and see what we can talk about. But he showed me you can't call it a trailer because there's no actual series yet. It's kind of a marketing reel that's a combination of me talking to the camera, me interviewing Steve, the audio of that, and a lot of the news coverage that has been given to Janelle Matthews' disappearance and then murder over the years. It's all spliced together with music. I forgot how long it ran, at least a couple minutes. And I got to see it this morning. It's not available for public use. I just requested, well, Michael, I'd really like to see what you did with that. And he allowed me to see it, and I thank him for that. It was excellent. You know me. You know how critical I can be of the show Disappeared, even though I watch it. And even like this past weekend, they had like 3 or 4 on in a row. Maybe it was Monday or Sunday. But you know how critical I can be of missing persons TV shows and that show Missing, how kind of, not very professional and everything else. Well, I'm here to tell you this trailer was good. And I'm not saying it just because I'm in it, but it was really good. So they really put some good time into it with the music, the cuts that they chose to use, the editing, everything was really, really good. So I'm hopeful. As I say, anytime any talk has come up about TV production and Ed, you're talking to somebody, stuff's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And, we may say, well, there's so much stuff out there. On Netflix, of course, its stock dropped 35% recently. But Netflix and Disney and Hulu and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and everything else. There's so many outlets for programs today, and still very, very difficult to get something made to the point that the public actually sees it. And he knows I know that. So I just told him there is no pressure coming from me at all. If you make it happen, congratulations to you. I'd love to be a part of it. I'd love to, maybe if you need a host, I'd love to do that. But if it doesn't happen, that's fine too. I just want you to know that I'm not going to be, emailing you like every week. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So we had a really good talk today. He's a really good guy. And like I said, I appreciate him showing me this little marketing reel that, like I said, I thought it was really well done. If I could show it to you, I would, but I don't have it. I don't have it. He gave me a link and then I watched it and that was that. So really, really good. So I think that it's in a good place. It's as in good a place it can be right now as far as trying to get it done. I think they're just doing the best they can. And I think eventually it just comes down to luck or something like that. What's everybody saying here? Valerie, hello, you all. Hello, Ed. Thanks for reaching out about my dad. Valerie, very welcome. Sorry to hear about your loss. Been there myself, as you know, a few years ago. Just, nothing really, prepares you for that. So you have my deepest sympathies, Valerie. Marlene says she's working on her exercises. Me too, Marlene. Crimson says, so I'm focusing on looking for her in 1950. Mary Jane, okay. Marlene, what trailer is it? Well, like I said, Marlene, at the end of January, this company contacted me. They're thinking about trying to do a series about Janelle Matthews' murder. Being that they know that I interviewed Steve, I was testified in the trial, or at least the interview testified in the trial. He wanted me to make me a part of their team, because of my experience. And so I did a little, they asked me some questions. They recorded it in early February while I was in Pennsylvania. And they used that along with a lot of other stuff to put this marketing reel together that they can then send to actual channels about selling the idea so that they can get the financing to actually make it happen. And that's what it is. It's something that they can send to these different channels. Hey, we want to do this. Don't you think this is good? And something they splice together, all having to do with Janelle Matthews' murder. Moving on, Sherry Papini. Yeah, her husband is leaving her, and he wants custody of the kids. Dare I say it? I think he will get custody of the kids. Sheree and I were talking about this. When was it, Sheree? Yesterday or the day before? I guess this would cause us to think that he really didn't know that he waited this long to divorce her. I guess it would cause us to believe that he really didn't know that she was lying all this time. I have my doubts, but because, as I think I brought up to Cherie when she and I were texting back and forth about this, that the way I understand the law is that, of course, she has to pay all this restitution. If it is discovered that her husband knew that she lied, and if it is discovered that he knew she was it defrauding the state of California, collecting this money for victims of violence and all of this, then he's on the hook too. He becomes part of the conspiracy. Then they could start to dock his wages. So that kind of is going through my head regarding all of this. I just have to believe that he must be like the most clueless guy in the world. But they're getting divorced. He's trying to get custody. I think he probably will get custody. And so Sherry, I guess, won't have to worry about lying to anybody anymore. If she wants to go off and be with an ex-boyfriend, she can just go do it now and doesn't have to pin it on Hispanic women or anyone else. But if you didn't know that, that is the recent news. I know I've been talking about her case for a long time. I think we can learn a lot about it. And certainly now that we know that she lied, we certainly can learn a lot from it. Twinkle says, I've been investigating a case for over a year. I've made some progress, but not a lot. I'm an amateur and I'm enjoying learning. I'm also stubborn, so not giving up yet. Twinkle, I don't think we want to get into what you're working on right at this second, but yeah, Twinkle, you're doing a fantastic job. I know it's slow going. I know you have a lot of other things going on in your life, but yeah, you're doing fine. Marlene says, yes, good old Sherry. Just read out about the other day. Sheree says it makes sense that he was fooled. So many people were. Not me and you, though, Sheree. We weren't fooled. RS, I called that Papini chick's crap from the get-go. Never underestimate the determination of a borderline personality. Yeah, right. RS, right. On the 2-hour, 48 hours on Friday, law enforcement said that he learned what Sherry was doing at some point, but both of them paid off their credit cards and he got a new truck, apparently. No sympathy for Kevin. Oh, I didn't see that, Kathy. I have to admit. Keith. Okay. I didn't know about any of that, Kathy. Thank you for including that. Crimson. Okay, Crimson's talking to Twinkle. Okay. So they're getting a divorce. So all you single guys who like crazy women, Sherry Papini is going to be back on the market. Moving on, this is something that's going to get covered more in depth during the update episode on Friday, but you should know that Marvin Young, who surely murdered Kamisha Hollis, is going to be sentenced tomorrow. Unfortunately, this is going to happen without him revealing where Kamisha is. But like I said, I will get more into that on Friday for the update episode. Caprice, Kamisha's sister, of course, let me know that this was going to be happening. Her family is very distressed about what's going on, but it's pretty much par for the course. Somebody's going to go to jail. They're going to spend a lot of time in jail, but never reveal where the murder victim is. But I've already recorded that part of the update episode, so you can just wait until Friday to hear what I have to say on that. But I'll read an article and then offer some commentary on it. Next topic. Newsletter will be coming out. Got a lot of things going on. I'm glad I did the Unfound now already. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But of course, we're coming up toward the end of the month. So I will be working on the newsletter this weekend. Will there be a blog, given that this is an update episode weekend? I don't know yet. But if you are on the newsletter list, be looking for it on Sunday. If you are not on the newsletter list, the first question is, why aren't you on the newsletter list? If you'd like to be on the newsletter list, email me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. Get up on my soapbox a little bit. I'll let you know some of the things that are going on behind the scenes, kind of what has gone on over the past month that is somewhat important. And the newsletters are usually around 4,000 words, so it's a nice bit of reading for you. So if you'd like to be on that list, contact me at unfoundpodcast gmail.com. You probably read some things that you're not going to hear or read anywhere else. Hey, K-Dog is late. Oh, I was just thinking you were busy, K-Dog, working at night. But I did kind of in the back of my mind, I was wondering, K-Dog hasn't checked in yet. She must be busy. Good to see you, K-Dog. Marlene says she didn't see the 48 hours. I didn't see it. Cult of Bunny says, I'm not on that list. Well, email me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com and we can make that happen. All right, I think it's about time, being that we're about halfway through this live show, that I'm going to answer maybe the best question. I'll say that a little facetiously. Of course, we just had a Q&A episode a couple weeks ago. But Jasmine, I know you're in here. I only got one question for tonight's show, but it is a doozy. And this question hits so close to home. Jasmine's question was, what would I say to Bo Derek if I met her? Now, if some of you don't know where that comes from, is that this is a long running thing for me. Well before Unfound ever got started, even well before I moved to Florida. You just have to remember kind of how old I am. I'm 51 years old. So I would have been 9 or 10 years old when the movie 10 came out. I would have been, little, 11 or 12 when Tarzan the Ape Man came out, even though it's a horrible, horrible movie. Bo Derek left a huge impression on a very, very young Ed Densel. And that is stuck with me for my entire life. Of course, she got a lot of attention back at that time, sex symbol, and then there was also kind of the private life of her. Of course, she was way younger than John Derek. Of course, John Derek had been married to Ursula Andress. He'd been married to Linda Evans. And then he dumped Linda Evans for Bo Derek. And of course, she was only 17 at the time. So they went out of the country until she got 18, became 18, got married, came back to the United States to avoid any legal issues. But she came on the scene in like 1979, 1980 with 10. And once again, 9, 10 years old, 11, 12, you're starting to realize, hey, there's this opposite sex and they're kind of interesting and everything. And Bo Derek for me has always been kind of in there. I guess maybe for a different generation, it might have been Marilyn Monroe, or for another different generation, it might have been Raquel Welch or whoever else. But for me, and maybe later, of course we can talk later if you were coming to that kind of puberty age later, who might it be, later. You could just pick somebody out. Just once again, at least for straight guys, that woman who, like I said, like a sex symbol, very famous sex symbol. For my generation, in my opinion, it was Bo Derek. You could say maybe Jennifer Aniston, but that was so much later. That was like into the 90s, and maybe for maybe a 12-year-old, maybe that would be the case. But for me, those impressionable years, Bo Derek. And so it's been a running thing over the years. I always, once in a while, will get a Bo Derek joke in there somewhere. I'll say something. And if you follow my personal Facebook page, I'm good for one of those once in a while. And even just recently, when was it? Yesterday, I've been reading so much in college sports about these transfer portals. It's a lot easier for now for college athletes to go from one college to another. And they call it a transfer portal. And so I made the comment, I've been reading a lot about these transfer portals. Can you direct me the one that will lead me to Bo Derek's front door? And so I think maybe that's where Jasmine got this idea of ask me, what would I say to Bo Derek if I met her? Well, Jasmine, I'm here to tell you, I actually had a conversation with Bo Derek. After all that, I actually spoke to her over Twitter. Must have been It was certainly before Unfound got started. But here's the story. I did not meet her in person, but I actually spoke to her back and forth on Twitter. I could not believe it. And I think that's why, even though Twitter, of course, with Elon Musk and all that stuff, it really can be a cesspool. But this is the kind of stuff, I think this is why a lot of regular people end up being on there, because you never know when you might get to talk to somebody, some famous person, a musician, an actor, a sex symbol, whoever. You never know when that might happen. It happened for me. I was at the Tampa airport. I was waiting on a flight. I must have been going to Pennsylvania. And I must have been in the Southwest section. Well, I was sitting there just minding my own business, and I turned around and I turned around and there was a gate. You know how the gates are like close to each other. I turned around and these people were lined up and they were already like walking. You know how the Southwest checks your little thing, scans it. They were already in line, moving there. And I saw this woman and I thought it was Bo Derek. I was like, if that was her, I cannot believe that I missed her. I cannot believe that she was sitting right over there and I missed her. Well, I was on Twitter at the time. I was following her on Twitter at the time. And although she's not a big social media person. So I tweeted to her, Bo, were you just in the Tampa Bay airport? I think I saw you just getting on a flight. I could have sworn that this woman was her. She got like within minutes, got back to me and said, no, not in Tampa right now. Must have been my twin or something. And so I told her this woman, and I even checked where the flight was going. I think it was going to Denver. And I said, well, I just want you to know that there is a woman on a flight to Denver right now on Southwest that could be your twin. And she goes, well, thanks for letting me know, but no, that wasn't me. It was fantastic. It was just, you just never know. So I didn't meet her, but I've actually spoken to her. And she was very kind. She got right back to me. And I believe her. And if she says that wasn't her, it wasn't her. But if I were to meet her, I think I would be I think that I would be pretty cool about it. I've met a lot of famous people, and I've met some famous, women who were sex symbols. And when you work in entertainment in Las Vegas, that's going to happen. I met Jerry Ryan, the woman who played 7 of 9 on Star Trek Voyager. I met her when I worked at Star Trek. I think I would just be nice to her. I think that I would just say, I think I would just be truthful with her, and, Bo is what? She was born in 58 or 59. So she's like 12 years older than I am. So she's like 62, 63 now. I would just tell her, I just want you to know, Bo, I was like 9, 10 years old when 10 came out. I want you to know you left a deep impression. You probably already know that. And everything, but you left a very deep impression on young boys, young men of a certain age back then. And it's fantastic. And that the way that you have carried yourself, staying out of the tabloids and all that, so many women who get that kind of attention, it seems they, make a lot of bad choices and everything. That she's just very low key. Doesn't really lust for the limelight. She does a lot of great work with horses and protecting animals and things. I think that's probably what I would say to her. I just want you to know I've been a fan of yours for a very, very long time. I've seen your appearances on Johnny Carson going back to the first time. And I just really appreciate the way, given that you've gotten so much attention over the years for everything that you've done, especially your beauty. Let's just admit it. The way you've handled yourself, very humble and modest and not dying for the limelight and everything, I think has been really good. And you have you get a lot of respect from me for that. That's what I would say to her. So, but a fantastic question, Jasmine. Thank you. very much. Perfect timing on that question, Jasmine. Perfect timing. Calda says, I loved her braid. She was gorgeous. Deborah Bo Derek looked like a younger Linda Evans. That's true, Deborah. And the funny thing is that all of those ex-wives of John Derek all still get along. Ursula Andress is still alive. Linda Evans is still alive. And they are all friends. None of them are bitter about any of it. John Derek must have been a hell of a guy, although he was a horrible filmmaker. Remember, he did not direct 10. That was a Blake Edwards, who was a very accomplished director, great director, Blake Edwards. But 10 was not a John Derek film. John Derek's film was Tarzan, Bolero, which were not very good. But John Derek, when it came to the ladies, complete woman slayer, I guess. Twinkle, I agree, Deborah Bloom. They had the same cheekbones, yes. Crimson says, for me, we're close in age, Ed. It was Mark Harmon for me. So you're a big NCIS fan, Crimson, then? I can see that. David Cassidy. Deborah, I met David Cassidy. 2006. He came in and did a one-night show in the Rat Pack show. I was the stage manager. He came in and portrayed Bobby Darin. So I met him. Of course, he's dead now. Very sad. He had some alcohol problems and things. But I met David Cassidy. Like I said, must have been 2006. Yeah, 2006. Had his posters. Deborah, thanks for answering, Jasmine. You're very welcome, Jasmine. Great question. What Linda? Wow, Deborah. He was my cousin. That's interesting. Follow me to Tiger Beat. I remember Tiger Beat. I did not have a subscription to that, though. Valerie, the NFL draft is in Vegas. Now I drove past the strip to a patient. It's crazy. Yeah, NFL draft tomorrow. Yeah. So that's my answer to the Bo Derek question. I do follow her on Instagram. She doesn't post as much to Instagram anymore. Really since COVID started. Once in a while, she just did something recently. And it turns out that she and John Corbett actually did end up getting married. They were just, of course, just a couple. They were just boyfriend, girlfriend, I guess, but they have gotten married. And of course, I'm crushed, but I'm still holding out hope. Moving on. Unfound now. I've already filmed it. And if you are a member, like all the people in green over here, you already have access to the Unfound Now episode for April of 2022. And for the rest of you, I guess you can start looking this up because I will release it to the public next week. Once again, one of the benefits of being a member on this channel, you get it early. I did a discussion and an analysis of the disappearance of Jordan Simeon, Simeon, a young man from Fargo, North Dakota. He was driving to New Orleans. He was moving there to kind of start a new life. He's 25 years old. And his car was found along the highway in Little Rock, Arkansas. And he had some phone conversations with some people. So I do, I think the video ended up, as those Unfound Nows usually end up being about 40 minutes. That is the disappearance covered on Unfound Now this month. For once again, for all of you members, maybe you've watched it already. You certainly have access to it. For the rest of you, you will have to wait till sometime next week when I release it. Once again, if you want to look that up just to kind of get a, just so you don't go into the video cold, Jordan Simeon, Simeon, he went missing, by the way, on March 6th of this year. So this is a disappearance that's not quite 2 months old. But yes, making this trip, car found on a major highway outside of Little Rock, Arkansas. So let's move on to some other things. I do have some news that I want to talk about, and I'll just start here. Just general news, things that have really nothing to do with Unfound. You know how I do that, or nothing that I've talked about before. Uh, just within the last couple days, some information, a final report was issued on this plane crash. You know, me and plane crashes, you know, I got to talk about it. For flight 804 from Egypt Air. This is a flight that was going from Paris to Cairo in 2016. And the reason I'm bringing this up is you're just going to be amazed on what caused this plane to crash. It's a little mind boggler. It was a flight from Paris to Cairo, Egypt Air, happened in 2016, and about 3 hours into the flight. So it's not like it crashed while it was taking off or landing, which is most common. This plane crashed while it was at cruise. It was cruising along 3 hours some into the flight and then fell out of the sky. What happened? Of course, they went down, it went right into the Mediterranean Sea. They had to send remote vehicles down there to go through the wreckage, pull a lot of it up to see what was going on. They did find the recorders, the cockpit voice recorder, the data recorder. They collected those, analyzed them. And this plane was brought down by a pilot smoking in the cockpit. True story. Now, what's going to boggle your mind even more? Now, I think, although I know the real is not a citizen of the United States, but I think that for most countries, everybody is banned from smoking on a flight. It used to be, of course, that used to be a thing. Even up until maybe the early 90s in the United States, they would have a smoking and a non-smoking section in the plane, and they usually would seat the smokers at the back. The reason is that the fresh air in planes comes in at the front, and it circulates through the cabin and goes out the back and is released into the atmosphere. So when you put the smokers at the back, then that doesn't allow that smoke to get into the rest of the cabin. The smoke just keeps going the way the air is going, the way the air is circulating through the plane. But now we know there's no smoking on any planes, at least in the United States and most other countries. Well, if you can believe it, Egypt Air and the country of Egypt allow pilots to smoke while they're flying. I had no idea. And as you know, although I don't like flying and I'm not a pilot or anything, I know a lot about air travel and crashes and why these things happen, these really quirks and everything. I've taken a long time interest in it, just like I've taken interest in disappearances. I never knew this. That Egypt, the airlines, whatever they are, that are based in Egypt, that fly with Egypt licensing, the pilots are allowed to smoke in the cockpit. Well, then what happened? If this is allowed to happen, why is this maybe the only time this has happened? Well, what happened was that you have to remember something about planes. So, of course, I don't know if any of you have ever been on a flight where the oxygen masks have dropped down. We see it in a lot of movies. I've never experienced that on a flight, thank God. But there's oxygen masks. Well, the pilots have oxygen masks too, in case of some emergency. But theirs don't drop out of the ceiling or anything. They're right there. So in case of an emergency, they can go right to that very quickly. They don't have to wait for something dropping out of the ceiling or anything. It's right there for them to grab. Well, what it seems happened was that this pilot was smoking in the cockpit, and the mask, see these masks, they're not supposed to leak oxygen. They're supposed to just be there, and then when an emergency happens, you put it on, then the oxygen starts to flow. This mask was leaking oxygen. And what happened, and they got the cockpit voice recorder, and they heard on there what happened. This guy had a cigarette. He had the cigarette down where this mask was. The mask was leaking pure oxygen. and it lit the cockpit on fire. And there was noise of them that have a fire extinguisher trying to put it out. They couldn't put it out. Right down into the water. That's what brought that plane down. Has to be one of the most unique causes of a plane crash ever. But this, the point I've made about disappearances, and you've heard me say this before, you can look at disappearances and equate them to airplane crashes. Investigators of airplane crashes, the professionals, not myself, but the professionals will tell you airplane crashes are never about one thing. They are about a series of things that all happen to line up. And this is a perfect example. A country that allows smoking on the flight. The pilot's actually doing that in the cockpit, even though I'm sure these pilots know that most other places in the world, you're not allowed smoking at all. Still, these guys said, hey, we're allowed to do it. We're going to do it. A leaking mask. Of course, that shouldn't be happening, but you never know. A leaking mask, and this pilot putting a cigarette close enough to that mask to make that little burning at the cigarette into a blowtorch. So those are at least 4 things that had to line up to bring that plane down. It's very much the same way in disappearances. It's usually a series of things that line up for disappearances. And it doesn't matter if it's a suicide, a walk-off, an accident, or a murder. All these things have to line up. It's never one thing. So when you think about this from now on, think about this particular plane crash. Flight 804, Egypt Air. It has its own page on Wikipedia, but there have been a lot of articles on it just within the last few days because this was the final report. Took 6 years, I guess, to come out. That's usually a lot longer than it takes. But probably it was delayed because they had to go down and get all that stuff off the Mediterranean seafloor. But that's what happened. Boggles my mind. Did not see it coming. I remember when this happened. I could have never guessed. I was thinking maybe it's a bomb. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Could have never suspected that. Even with all the knowledge I have up in my head regarding plane crashes. And I'm going to be very interested. There's a couple YouTube channels that I go to where they analyze plane crashes, guys who are pilots. I'm going to love to hear what a few of them have to say about this. Crazy. Crimson says, I first watched Mark Harmon and St. Elsewhere. I remember that. Sharon says, I met David Cassidy too at the Silverton, 2009, 2010 Silverton in Las Vegas, Sharon. I know where that is. Crimson, John Corbett from Northern Exposure. That's who Bo Derek married. Lucky guy. John Corbett must be living a perfect life. Yes, Jasmine says she wrote about the crash earlier today. Deborah says, what? Wow, I didn't think that would be allowed anywhere now, the smoking. Yeah, airline allowed them to smoke while they're flying up there in the cockpit. True. Yeah, that is terrible. But just vape if you need it. Yeah. The Zayla, are you related to, I don't even know who that is, the Zavlar. Are you related to Doogie White? I don't even know who that is. So that was the first thing I wanted to pass on to you. Me and plane crashes. Anytime a report comes out, something like that, I got to talk about it. Next, I know many of you, and I know certainly assistant moderator or assistant/moderator Cherie has been following it. That is this whole thing going on between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I'm not going to get into all the details and everything, but this is a perfect example. Here's what I think I know. Of course, Johnny Depp is very, very, very famous. Amber Heard, I could pass her on the street and wouldn't know who she is. I know she was in the Aquaman movie, which I saw, which I liked, and which I thought she did a fine job in it. But still, if I passed her on the street, I wouldn't know who she is. But still, she's been in a lot of stuff, but she's not Johnny Depp, but still kind of famous. Read about, or maybe you've actually been watching it live, what was going on between these two. This is how disappearances in relation to relationships happen. This kind of toxic relationship. If these were just two regular people, laypersons, say that Johnny was an accountant and Amber was a school teacher, and they were having a relationship like this, it would have been much, much more likely that Amber goes missing and Johnny says, I just have no idea what happened. This is what I visualize when we've covered those disappearances of a wife or a girlfriend, and the boyfriend or husband has some story that doesn't make any sense. It's this is what I visualize. If you've been following it, you ever want to know what's inside my head when I start thinking about these relationships and the kind of fights and things that are going on behind the scenes? It's this stuff between Johnny and Amber is what I see in my head. Something that led up to a disappearance. Now, regarding what Johnny did, what Amber did, I'm not here to get into that. I don't know. I think, Shree, if you don't mind me speaking for you, Shree seems to think that Amber is going to lose. I haven't been following it closely enough to know. But from a disappearance standpoint, learning about relationships, why do relationships cause disappearances? It's because of stuff like this. Two people who at one time very much in love, or maybe it was lust, interested in each other, two good-looking people getting together, doing this, doing that. And at some point, maybe it's due to Johnny and his drugs, or maybe she really is bipolar. I don't know, but it becomes toxic. And then for disappearances, those kinds of relationships, it just goes that one step further. It's just, this is what I see. So from now on, when we've covered disappearances like this, Marion Hurley, Rosemary Rapp, to name a couple, Danielle Sleeper, to name another one, Ellen Sloan, where the men in their lives just say, I just have no idea what happened. It's this kind of arguments and violence and abuse is what I see in my head that then leads to the disappearance. Deborah says, me either, restraining order. I don't know. I've not been following it at all. Stitching, very little. All I know is what Cherie has been telling me, and I thank you, Cherie, for keeping me a little updated. But this is what I see. And so if you're ever wondering what's in my head on these types of disappearances, all you have to do is just watch a clip of Johnny talking about what was going on. Or if you want to wait until Amber gets, I guess she's going to get up on the stand eventually and give her side of it. Maybe you want to wait until what she says to hear what she says. This is what I see in my head, these types of relationships. Shree says drug and alcohol use, surely. The Zavlers, JD suffering from that old man, younger women problems. Sometimes those work out. The Zavlor, I'm not here to, a lot of those work out. As much as we make fun of them, a lot of them work out. I was just talking about Bo Derek. John Derek was like 40 years older than she was, and they were married until he died. I suppose they're, I don't know what, I don't know what the percentages are. Me, I can tell you as a 51-year-old, I'm not interested in women who are a lot younger than I am. And in fact, I've dated women who are older than I am. So I can't really, relate to that thing, what's going on there, but it works for some people. So, but I don't know if it can be just reduced to that. I think that even if they had been about the same age, I think you might still be looking at these problems. He's having his drug and alcohol problems, maybe abuse from childhood problems, and then she doesn't quite sound stable either. But well, I guess the jury will be the ones who eventually decide all of this. Deborah says she seems bipolar. Well, that's the argument that the Johnny's lawyers are trying to make. I don't know. I think mentally they were actually pretty close in age. Yeah, maybe Johnny going down to Amber's level, not her going up to his age. Yeah, very bipolar. Yes. Okay. So I just wanted to bring that up from, once again, a disappearance point of view. Next thing I want to talk about is Madeleine McCann. She is in the news. Before I get into this, I'm only going to cover it for a couple minutes. I'm not an expert on her disappearance. I know many of you have been following her disappearance, this little girl's disappearance, from the beginning. And I know there continues to be a lot of different theories about what happened. But there is this guy, Christian Bruckner, who is German. They are now trying to pin Madeleine's disappearance on him. And they were able to show that he was in Praia da Luz at the time. He is a criminal. Of course, she went missing in 2007, but in 2005, he had raped a 72-year-old woman. But, and I read the entire article, but I didn't copy it into this. I have to tell you, this doesn't sound like the guy. Just does not, once again, what I know about it. And we have to remember, even though I've not been following it that closely, a lot of different people have been accused of doing this over the years. And it always seems like, oh, they're onto somebody. And then it just kind of goes out of the news as soon as it becomes news. And 15 years later, it's still unsolved. I will tell you from a disappearance point of view that this guy does not sound like it. My perception is that he's certainly a bad guy. Certainly Christian Bruckner should be in jail. But it doesn't sound like he's into little girls. Now, of course, some men are. And that's my point. My perception is that people who do this, mainly men, they stick to a particular victim or age or something. It's my perception. It's very odd for a guy to go from raping a 72-year-old to kidnapping for some purpose, however old Madeleine McCann was. And it seems weird to me, like, for a pedophile to be interested in little boys, and then all of a sudden he's trying to abduct a 43-year-old male. It just doesn't seem like all of those things. I'm sure there's exceptions that somebody's going to point out, but generally, I think that is the way it usually is. On top of that, my perception is that, kind of like Steve Pankey, Christian Bruckner maybe has kind of thrust himself into getting attention for this, and the opposite. It doesn't sound to me, maybe I could be wrong about this, but just the way I read it, it doesn't seem like the police tracked him down. It sounds like he tracked the police down. And it very well may be just for the purposes of maybe getting a deal for what he's already done. Well, I was there and maybe I know something. And we know how often prisoners do that. So I got to tell you, I'm not convinced this Christian Bruckner had anything to do with Madeleine McCann's disappearance. Just from me reading a couple articles on it, it caught my eye a couple days ago. And then in preparation for this live show tonight, I tried to catch myself up as quickly as possible. And I just don't think this is the guy. The Real says they had to name it as an official person of interest now because the statute of limitations I read that was about to close up. So they don't have sufficient evidence, and this buys them time. Yeah, yeah, because the statute of limitations, what I read 15 years regarding abductions or something like that, where this happened. Portugal, right? So it's all just like this procedural stuff that really has nothing to do with the investigation into this. I will tell you, I continue to believe that somebody kidnapped Madeline McCann for purposes of raising the girl as their own. Uh, once again, I'm not an expert on this. I've not followed it a ton over the years, and certainly not since starting Unfound. Too much to do. But, and I know people are still suspicious of Madeline's own parents. Maybe. But if it happened the way the parents said, that they went out and she was there and they came back and she was gone, I think there might have been some woman in that hotel who just was eyeing them up, and saw an opportunity. We know that happens. We know, hey, babies in the United States are being kidnapped from maternity wards. We know that pregnant women are getting attacked, and all sorts of crazy stuff. And dare I say it, we've covered a disappearance where that might have happened. Ashley Eifert, pregnant, went missing. And although you may believe that the father of that child caused her disappearance, and I'm totally open to that, you could look at her disappearance in a totally different way, that she might have been lured to that house where she was going to look at that furniture, and somebody kidnapped her so the person could have Ashley's child. That happens. So this is kind of the way I look at Madeline McCann's disappearance. Did somebody go in there and snatch that baby because they wanted to raise the baby as their own? Now, what makes this a little difficult is that, of course, Madeline McCann's parents were not Portuguese or Spanish. And if this was some Spanish or Portuguese person who kidnapped Madeline, how are they going to explain now? Of course, it's 15 years later. So how are they going to explain how their daughter looks very waspyish? Let's just put it that way. Very Northern European and not very Southern European. I wonder how they're explaining that. Or maybe, unfortunately, it got kidnapped. She was kidnapped to be sold on the black market, and Madeline ended up with waspy, if you don't know what I mean by that, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant usually kind of means French, British, Irish, of course, that type of very white-skinned people, light-skinned white people. Maybe she got sold to a family, and Madeline's out there under the name of Jane Doe, and she doesn't even know that she's Madeline McCann. Could be. But I just don't believe that this was a kidnapping for purposes of violence or anything like that. I think that that was the case, that violence would have been done right there in that room, and somebody wouldn't have risked taking Madeline and hiding her somewhere and taking off. That's what my experience with disappearances tells me. I could see that, Charlie. That has always been my gut feeling as well. Yeah, got taken to be raised by someone else. Yeah, and I guess of all possibilities, that might be the best one. It's better than Madeline being deceased, and of course, I hope that she's been raised well. And maybe one of these days she will think, you know what? Maybe I am Madeline McCann. I can certainly hope for that. But the best case scenario right now is that, yes, she was kidnapped and she was raised, very nicely with some family who, believed they were adopting a legitimate baby that was not, on the black market. And some parents do get fooled that way. So, okay. One more, and I don't know how deep I want to get into it. I'm just going to read this entire article because it's fantastic. Charlie Shree says that was a family-friendly resort that had lots of activities for children. Yeah, and what's as we've learned regarding those types of people, they do hang out in areas where they are going to have access to children, whether it's a pedophile or some other type of person. Anglo-Saxon specifically refers to people who lived in England from the 5th to the 11th century of England. Otherwise, this term is white or European descent. Thank you, Coffee. I guess I was using it more in layperson's terms. It's just hard for me. Northern European, Southern European, something like that. Cherie says Portuguese are not always brown hair, blue eyes. That's certainly true. Okay. I just don't know. I'm not some genetic expert. I'm just trying to. How do you explain that if some family that has darker, they're white, they're scientifically, anthropologically white, but with darker skin, are raising a very white daughter? How did they go about explaining that? And even I can say that from my own family. My mother was Italian, but the way I think that we think about Italians in the 21st century, maybe even in the 20th century too, is, well, generally Italians have darker features and, really dark hair and, bushy dark eyebrows and everything. My mother was full-blooded Italian. She looked German, but her family goes generation back into Italy, but it was Northern Italy, not Southern Italy, which we, of course, usually associate with Sicilian, which then a lot of people start thinking about The Godfather and something like that, even though James Caan didn't look Sicilian to me. So thank you, Coffee, for straightening me out for the exact perfect term on that. All right. Final story before we get to this Friday's episode. How about a duck solving a murder? How about that? Let me read this to you. Someone's pet duck has helped investigators in Western North Carolina close a missing persons investigation that began more than 2 years ago. On April 21st, Angela Warnsley, 46, and Mark Barnes, 50, were formally charged with first-degree murder in connection with the death of Warnsley's grandmother, Nellie Sullivan. Officials have yet to determine when or how Sullivan was killed, but they believe she has been dead for multiple years. Warnsley and Barnes, a married couple, have been in custody since mid-December 2020, when the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office opened an investigation into Sullivan's disappearance, which was almost immediately deemed suspicious, according to a statement from the Sheriff's Office. Early in the investigation, Warnsley and Barnes were charged with misdemeanor animal cruelty, unlawfully reconnecting a utility, animal abandonment, and synthetic cannabinoid, that's how you say that word, possession. Barnes was additionally charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Detectives had been searching for any sign of Sullivan, who was in her 90s, police said, since those initial arrests. Numerous search warrants were executed at various locations as part of the investigation, and authorities discovered that Warnsley and Barnes allegedly continued to collect the grandmother's benefits checks. The two also allegedly continued to have her prescriptions filled. Don't worry, this is going somewhere. On December 20th, 2021, Mr. Barnes was charged with concealing a death, and Ms. Warnsley received the same charge on January 7th, 2021, reads the Sheriff's Office statement. Warnsley was also charged with assault with a deadly weapon on a detention officer, at the Buncombe County Detention Facility in January of 2021. Then in March of 2021, the pair were charged with obtaining a controlled substance by fraud or forgery, trafficking in heroin or opium by possession, trafficking in heroin or opium by transport, and felony conspiracy. While Barnes provided authorities with a location, allegedly suggesting the missing woman's remains might be there, a search of the area turned up nothing. Without Sullivan's body, detectives were unable to accuse the couple of her murder. But that all changed on April 14th of this year, when a pet duck escaped its owners and faithfully scurried beneath a trailer in Candler, North Carolina. In their efforts to reclaim the duck, the bird's owners came across the container Sullivan's body had been placed in. If I could give the duck a medal, I would, Buncombe County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Mark Walker told WLOS News 13. An anthropologist is working to determine how long ago Sullivan, who suffered from health issues as well as dementia, was killed. It was unclear Tuesday if Barnes or Warnsley, who are being held without bond, had entered pleas to any of the charges against them. Their lawyers were unavailable for comment. A duck found a murdered woman. I had to read that story to you. Had to read it. You can go check it out. I'm sure there's more than one story out there, but you never know what you're going to run across, I guess, in true crime. Charlie says, Sicilian always reminds me of Quentin Tarantino, True Romance. Don't look it up if you don't know it. I'm not responsible. And Puma says with the little, look at the little duck emoji. I love it, Puma. Nicely done. That is crazy. It is crazy. That's why I had to read it. Okay. All right. Let's get to talking about this Friday's episode. Once again, if you'd like to become a member, very special member, hit the join button. You got the subscribe button right there. Give this video a thumbs up. And patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Please check that out. Get access to the blogs, access to the think tank, Unfound on the Ground, where we are now covering famous disappearances, well-known disappearances, and maybe famous people. Deborah says, quack, quack, good for the duck. Yeah. Oh, Charlie, Sheree got the little birdie there too. This Friday will be update episode number 11. Once again, it's hard to believe. 6 years ago yesterday, I was talking about starting a podcast that then failed, to then now in April of 2022, talking about update episode number 11. Episode 299, covering 250 disappearances. It's crazy. I'm still in the process of recording update episode number 11. In fact, I will continue to work on it after this live show is done. I'm almost done. But it's how long is the episode? Not going to be one of the longest update episodes. Not really. It's somewhere 2 hours to 2.5 hours, maybe somewhere in there. I know some of them have gone over 3 hours. It just depends on how many updates there are and how much I have to say. So if you're new to this, though, if you're a new person to Unfound, what the update episode is that I go the way back to the beginning, September 2016, and I look at every disappearance that Unfound has covered to see if there are any updates since the last update episode. We are now doing update episodes every 4 months, and we've been doing that for a few years now. End of April, end of August, end of December. End of April, end of August, end of December. End of April, end of August, end of December. It seems to be a good pattern. Every 4 months works out just perfect. And that might be what I start doing with the Q&A episodes too. So this will be the first one for 2022. But please understand, when I start, if you're listening for the first time, if you're listening to this, these are updates that have just occurred since January 1st to now. Very well, maybe there are tons of updates on these disappearances, but those would have been covered in prior update episodes. But I do not go through every case. I only talk about those disappearances in which updates have occurred in the last 4 months. Then at the end, because I don't want to go through something like this without naming everybody. At the end, then I read off all of the missing people that we've covered on Unfound since the beginning. And so we're now up to like 250 disappearance episodes. So that at the end is pretty long, but it needs to be done. I've had several people tell me that every time they hear that part, it hits very hard. But I will go through all 250. That will include, for example, Flight 370. I'm not going to name every passenger on the jet or the pilots or anybody. I'll just say the passengers and crew of Flight 370. If there are disappearances in which multiple people disappeared at the same time, they're named. I include all of the unfound now disappearances, both in the update section and in the reading off section. And hopefully I will complete that before I go to bed on this mattress right here. Really hoping I can get it done. So, Leanne, good evening, Leanne. I'm just looking to sign off and you're just getting in. Well, good evening to you, Leanne. Good to see you. Puma says, I love the longer episodes. Put earbuds in and clean house or exercise. Okay, Puma, way to get it done. But that's all I have for you for tonight. Great show, of course. Like I told you at the beginning, I told you it was worth giving it the thumbs up. Just do it right now. And some of you will see me tomorrow, you members, when I release the update episode. Of course, it's being videoed, so all you do is get to see me. The rest of you will get to see or hear me on Friday when the episode comes out at 2 p.m. Eastern on Spotify and elsewhere. Then some of you will also get together with me on Sunday evening for the think tank. I think we'll do a think tank. I'll find something to talk about from this update episode. So one way or another, I guess you're going to be seeing me or hearing me within the next few days a few times. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for contributions through the super chat tonight. Thank you to Sharon, of course, and RS. You're very generous, RS. If I didn't mention you, RS, thank you very much. Screaming, you're very generous. Crimson, congratulations on becoming part of the very exclusive membership group on this YouTube channel. That's all I got. Keep your head on a swivel. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't be a victim out there. Good night.